Hello and welcome to the third tutorial of my process redesign tool. Today we'll be talking about the identification of potentials within the tool and how this is technically done. There are a whole series of presentations with regards to process innovation and linear overhead. So to get a better overview and a good intro into the whole subject, please refer to the intro presentation and the first two tutorials that help you better understand the subject. Now let's get started on the identification of potentials. From a technical point of view, the operation of the tool in that respect is rather easy and simple. It only consists of two action items. The first one being note the problem or the flaw or the potential, whatever you may name it, into a list that references the problem to a process and a process phase. Second, take the little Kaizen flash that is issued with the flaw identified and that carries also an identification number and put it into the respective spot where it belongs to in the swim lanes. This is basically it. How that actually works, we will see in a second in the tool itself. We're now in the tool on sheet process flaws, and what you see is a table with all the little Kaizen stars that carry a serial number, starting with the prefix F for flaw and 1 for the serial number of the flaw. So we have a unique identification method to address the potential or the flaw. Second is we have drop-down fields for the different processes. So we can make a reference from the flaw to a process. If you change the flaw, you can see the correct process name is drawn, and also the process phase is also drawn into the table. What you need to punch in is a short description of the problem itself, and this is more or less what you need to do in the table. Once your process flaw list has been completed, you just take the little star, you press Ctrl X, and you go to the swim lanes and insert it with Ctrl V and put it at the spot where it belongs. So here we have an overview that helps us identify the process with the respective phase and the problem that is linked to it, and will later help us reference also the measure, the implementation, and the effect of the measure to the process. So our whole PDCA cycle is actually closed. So here again we have a little graph on how that works. I think that is fairly easy to understand. What is now more interesting to understand is where we get the ideas from to draw those little flashes and to give a good description on the problem itself. In fact, there are two approaches on how to identify these flashes or how to come up with those flashes. The first is the team discussion. Our teams live in their processes and they are very, very aware of the problems that exist within these processes. Often what happens within an organization is process improvement is not consequently undertaken nor followed up. Giving you an example is most likely the planning process, where a lot of mistakes can occur. What usually does not happen is that we consequently note the problems and see whether they occur several times or whether they are just incidental. And once the planning has been approved, go into those notes and review them and decide whether we want to have measures for them or whether this is not necessary. So in a nutshell, our teams that work on the different process phases or the processes itself and that have broken them down into process steps and depicted them on the swim lanes are usually well aware of the problems and can come up with good indications on where they occur and why they occur. Second, we have, as mentioned in tutorial number 2, the process analytics, where we see how much time is actually on value-added processes, how much time is used on quality issues, how much time is also used on waiting issues. And that also gives us some good hints on where we could have come up with potentials within our whole process landscapes. Third is the process overview in form of a swim lane itself. It is really interesting to see when an organization for the first time looks at the full transparency of their processes. It seems, and that comes really from experience with the organizations I work with, was that seeing what they do transparently, not only step by step, but as a whole, opens eyes and brings people to a whole new set of ideas how they could reach the goal with leaner methods. So in a nutshell, you heard me a lot talking about the teams, and that is really important. Process is interface and teamwork. If you really want to set up good processes, you need your interface partners to participate, and you need to delegate that to your teams so they can draw up the slides and they can draw up also the problems and discuss it in team to come up with better processes. Next one up will be the measure definition and how to get to priorities of implementing measures. I hope this tutorial was interesting for you and helps you. Yeah, I'm happy to welcome you in the next tutorial.